Good evening, welcome. I'm John. I'm a bookseller at Literati Bookstore in downtown Ann Arbor, Michigan. We're so pleased this evening to welcome poets Perry Janes, Cynthia Dewi Oka, and Matthew Olzmann to our At Home with Literati virtual event series to read from some of their latest work. Just a webinar overview for our attendees. The chat is closed to you this evening, but you can keep the chat window open as I will be sharing links to purchase books from Literati throughout the event. Live transcription is also available on your toolbar using the CC icon if you need transcription this evening. And if you're watching us later on YouTube, there are always links to purchase books in the description directly below me. And you can also like and or subscribe to our videos to be kept up to date with all of our At Home with Literati events, to view them after they are streaming live on our YouTube channel. And as a reminder, you can shop for more books at literatibookstore.com. to have shipped to your home anywhere in the United States. And if you live in Southeast Michigan or the Ann Arbor area, our doors are, of course, back open to the public for in-store shopping. Most of all, though, we'd just like to thank you for your attendance this evening, or this morning, or this afternoon, depending on where and when in the world you may be joining us. So without further ado, I'm really excited to introduce our first author. Perry Janes is a writer and filmmaker from Metro Detroit, a Pushcart Prize and Hopwood Award recipient. His fiction and poetry has appeared or is forthcoming in Beloit Poetry Journal, the Michigan Quarterly Review, Poetry, Subtropics, West Branch, and other venues. He holds a BA from the University of Michigan and an MFA in poetry from the Warren Wilson College. The recipient of the AMPAS Student Academy Award and an inaugural fellow of the Imagine Impact Content Accelerator from Rod Howard and Brian Grazer. He currently lives in Los Angeles, where he works as a screenwriter. Please welcome into your living rooms, Perry Janes.
Awesome. Thanks, John, and thanks to everyone at Literati for helping to make this evening possible and host this event, even in the digital ether of COVID-19 2022. You know, it isn't every day that you get to read alongside your friends and celebrate them and their beautiful books. And so that got me thinking a little bit about poems of friendship, which became a bit of a organizing theme, I guess, of what I wanted to read tonight. I'm actually going to start with a work in progress. This is called Holiday Poem. I've always been accused of being bougie, ever since I dragged my friends from the snow pants or no pants themed house party in college to drink Earl Grey creme tea in my dorm room, where Kamasi Washington played over the dim lamps and battery-powered candles Tom and Will affectionately called bordello lighting. But I have never felt farther from the Detroiter in me, closer to the Marie Antoinette in me, than when I peruse the Beverly Hills stationery boutique with its letterpress greeting cards, its hand-bedazzled wrapping papers, ribbons going for hundreds of dollars, really hundreds per bundle. Of course, I love it here. It's holiday season. Bespoke missives run amok. And let me tell you, there's jeopardy being a poet this time of year. This time of year, I refuse a cottage industry composing letters for friends, each of whom have no clue how to say the thing most in their heart to the people most in their heart. And the secret is I'm hardly any better. This time of year, extended families gather for rump roast and shrivel-veined carrots, the way I've often seen depicted on television, none of which reminds me of messy sleepovers spent binging HBO with Kevin or Mike until daybreak Christmas morning. Later, the potluck gatherings where no one remembered to cook a main, our pockets turned out to tip the Domino's delivery guy our Ziploc bag of quarters. But when I search the words chosen family poem, Google asks me, did you mean choose your family home? Followed by 38 links to Zillow. The perfect poem engine leads me past discursive language directly to the feeling I didn't know I needed, which is why I'm constantly allowing analytics to track my desperate fluctuations of emotion, biographical details painstakingly logged for specificity. I'm sorry I sent the greeting card that read, "Santa hates you and so does Jesus, but I will always care." It isn't a competition. I'm constantly choosing wrong. This time of year, I spill over with sentimentality. One friend accuses me of being almost too tender. Another tells me, "You feel enough for the rest of us." I've tried fruit baskets, crates of red wine, all deliciously unsatisfactory, excruciatingly impersonal. So here I go, back to the stationery boutique, attempting to say what defies even the algorithm's capacious mind, with flourishes of ribbon, glitter-caked cursive, confetti cut from the shreds of my credit score. Maybe the message lives in imprecision, the half-baked email or haphazard gift, a handwritten note that says, "This time of year, I've never felt closer to belonging than those moments when I know we've chosen each other." But not that, not quite. This next poem is Spare Rib with Shiitake Slaw and Scallion Glaze, written for Tina at Girl and the Goat, Chicago, Illinois. The rib between my fingers for a long moment, dripping with au jus and aioli when you ask, "Should I leave you two alone?" You shoo me from the frame to snap a glam shot of my plate before it's cleared, and I wonder, are we this alike? Do you fear losing what you have more than enjoying what arrives? Always, I save the best bite for last. This bite always turned cold. I'm trying to explain why I took 3 years to say the words, "I love you." Why a boy like me never spit blood licked from lips split in winter, never stood beneath the storm to drink its rain for fear of the funnel forming in his throat, a boy who kept his jaws clamped shut, even when a girl laid him gently on the floor to press a Hershey's kiss against his lips. Let me try again. A child learns early in life the mouth does not give back. To taste means to consume, and who, having eaten their fill, doesn't mourn the meal. Curled steam flushing the cheeks, cayenne and chilies blazing thatched timbers in the mouth. Who hasn't played No, You Hang Up, an attempt to prolong the tin can whisper of a voice wavering on the phone and threatening, even then, from a distance, to fold upon itself, somehow smaller, diminished. This is a song the tongue knows, the tongue wet with loneliness and glue that parses parsimony and sage, poblano and pear, coils of anise-studded orange brewed in a dark coffee, and the words we feed one another, unctuous, sour, love, come, be alone with me to savor what arrives and is gone. All right, so swinging back to poems of friendship, this next piece is dedicated to anyone whose friends show their affection by gleefully, relentlessly making fun of them, and anyone else who's ever flubbed to come back. Roast. Kid, your feet are so ugly, even the sky hides from your toenails. You wear Crocs and the sun comes out to thank you. Your emails so long, the computer falls asleep. So literal, you thought a quarterback was a refund. Oh, friends, I've never mastered this particular power of talking shit. I understand there's spark to it. I've spent years striking tinder against my teeth, tumbling pebbles on the palette. Always my words fall heavy, dull, friends. I've spent years blistering in your affection, each gentle, melted, and reshaped, sharp, as in, You're so scrawny, you look like a coat rack your parents dressed at Big and Tall. Meaning, I know your mama bought you that shirt from Kohl's on discount, 3 sizes too large. Here, I have a spare. Wear it as long as you need. As in, your voice is so nasal, you sound like a toilet your daddy clogged with bourbon shits. Meaning, I can hear the snot rattling in your throat. Sorrow sick or sick sick, one sometimes leading to the other. Don't wipe your nose with one ply from the stall. Rest your head on my chest. I don't mind the damp. All along, I thought we were playing with flame. Having been burned, I meant to burn back, as in, you're so thirsty, you'll wind up like your father. Whole lake of liquor dammed behind the teeth, your wife and children drown in you. Maybe I got the rules fucked up, heat all wrong. Friends, I'm speaking now only to you. You've homaged my fat tongue, stubby tongue, tongue that can't curl a curse for shit. You've named me pimple-winged angel, back me Batman, scalded me in every tender, so I might never bleed there again. Friends, you declare each day warm, bright, while I'm left to my usual labor, knocking rocks in the dirt, breaking each one hollow as eggshells. Their big mouths open, their big open mouths empty as ever. All right, the last poem I'm going to read here tonight is called The Cookout, and this is written after Jason Schinder's poem, The Party. That's how it goes. The meal ends, all of us scraping the plates of our loneliness into the dishwater. I hug my friends goodnight. I don't take special notice of the way Priscilla's elbow clicks when it bends, how Bash's collarbone juts into my neck. I close the door behind them, and just like that, the virus. Just like that, months of video calls. I pray this email finds you in hopeful spirits. That's how it goes. What arrives, arrives suddenly. I disinfect the groceries. I sit on the toothsome couch. I blur days with days on television. It is a story with very little action. When I was still a boy, my parents would cruise around suburban streets, singling out houses we would never be able to afford. It didn't matter. I stretched my little legs across the car seat like a couch, made a TV of my Game Boy. I bay-windowed the moonroof. I pitied the others, those kids with backyard swimming pools and au pairs who didn't know this augury, this homing the night, our own. Today, I cul-de-sac the sugar packets strewn on my dining table. I stretch the Afghan above the bed, its threadbare blue skying with lamplight. Friends, I imagine the cookout we'll have here. I roof my hands, I picket my teeth, I lawn and lawn the tongue for any who need to rest. Come through, bring the beer, Mike. Will, help yourself to the barbecue. Tom, Jake, you're in charge of margaritas. Quit asking Kevin, of course you can bring the dog. Come in, Sam, come in, Fatih, Hugh. God damn, let me try on those glasses. Andres, put the little ones on the carpet. Dries is here with Cynthia, there by the hearth. Marianne nursing her mug of cocoa, having found unlikely companions in Chris and Gina. Listen to them yammering about the news. Tina, darling, you know these halls better than any. Crank up the speakers, never mind the neighbors. V, I've saved a blanket special for your shoulders. Tell Matthew he doesn't have to worry. Stop tidying the counter, Van. Brandon, you too. My parents will be here any moment. Dan's on his way. Are you surprised he forgot the time? I have to name them, you understand. I have to name them to understand they're here. That's how it goes. We home whatever we have, even the body, especially the body. And although it is already sundown in the world of this poem, although the doors are opening, the guests again making excuses, streaming into a dark I am no longer certain we will ever step out from. Here are their dishes. Here is the water, dirty with signs of their living. Thank you.
Thank you, Perry. Our next reader, Cynthia Dewi Oka, is the author of Fire is Not a Country and Salvage from Northwestern University Press, and Nomad of Salt and Hard Water from Threadmake's Blanket Press. A recipient of the Tupelo Quarterly Poetry Prize and Leeway Transformation Award, her writing has appeared in The Atlantic, Poetry, Academy of American Poets, The Rumpus, Pank, Guernica, ESPNW, and elsewhere. Her experimental poem, Future Revisions, was exhibited at the Rail Park Billboard in Philadelphia in summer of 2021. Cynthia earned her MFA from Warren Wilson College and has taught creative writing at Bryn Mawr and New Mexico State University. Originally from Bali, Indonesia, she is the 2021-2022 poet in residence at the Amy Clampett House in Lenox, Massachusetts. Please welcome Cynthia Dewi Oka.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you, Literati, for hosting us. And thank you, Perry, for the friend poems. I feel so fancy to be in a poem. Matt, you too. So I'm really, I found myself this week being pretty obsessively on my friend text threads. And I think it is because the world is, there's so much happening right now. There is war, and there has always been war, right? And every war recalls the other wars. And I think I found myself, I'm a product of also that, of colonial warfare back in Indonesia, of the War of Independence, of like my people's war against themselves as well. And I keep thinking about like all of the people who are never gonna feel at home again. And I keep thinking about like all of the kids that are not gonna feel safe again. And also like I think that was why I was obsessively like maintaining my text threads this week with friends, because having a fraction of that experience, it's like friends are almost like the only return we get to have. I keep thinking about the thing that you said, Perry, about we home whatever we have, right? So I'm going to read some poems, and they touch on the wars that have always been happening in the United States, or some of them. Elegy with a White Shirt. The way we waited for the year to end made me think of walking backward under a mandrake sky, cloth rough and hot with my own breath on my cheeks, as the hill began to resemble an eyelid, the line of men in black, shields pressed side by side like a howl, spelled out its lashes. In the solid lake, one of the shadows had started a fire. Heavy things spilled across the asphalt. I remember thinking I knew what violence was, verdicts left under stones in my body, and how specific the shapes I could fold into in the cold of a wrong train. How electrifying, those veins appearing in the window, the city's false sleep, lashes separating as they swept down toward the dark mass in which I was one strand of smoke. That was years ago in another country, where as a rule, people carried rain like them. People carried rain inside them like small hammers. In Orozco's combat, A blade is thrust through the suggestion of a body inside a white shirt. I see a fist pushing the blade in and the blade coming clean through the bracket where the ribs should be. There is no blood. The shirt is holding a line with other shirts like a wave, cresting backward against its own dark sea, pounding from the opposite shore, suggesting an endlessness to struggle, and within, fire's vanity. From behind, I see what the white shirts cannot. Faces afloat in the umbrage of raised blades, trying to make their way here. Maybe I am trying to make my way there. It is not always clear these days whether between here and there I am supposed to break or hold the line. In my homeland, the people wear white to signify readiness to die. My homeland lives like a witch in my mouth, turning the rice yellow and filling me with marbles when my mother calls. She puts up strange lights in the air of my mind. Sometimes they bark like dogs, and when the mask of gasoline sticks too zealously, I stop what I am doing to lick it. Under the white shirt, the wound is longer than any blood. Under the parade of the pure, the wind-defying veils of redemption, my bones suggest spill. I dig around them day and night, for the poem as irrigation, myself as probable, which is to say here, not there, part of the we, not sweeping bloodless liquidity time and again, some call bad magic and others America. They everywhere is whomsoever we least believe. I've never seen the witch in my house in a white shirt. I've never seen her write, but her verdict I feel behind every line, burning or not. For instance, mingling ashes with snow, wondering where my portion of pavement begins, and if today the kids at Burke's Family Detention Center are mending their own snow people. Kids whose cards to Santa have found the guardian instead, questing that old burglar, pinnacle of red in whom grows fat, our love for the obsolete like wet fruit in jaws of snow. Para la libertad. The ironclad irony sticks in an old hole in my ribs. On white paper, neon-colored squiggles, erratic lines suggest stars, flowers, small hands of endless sea. Protege, Part 2. Such small sorrows, these, the most honest things I own and have no use for. I go to meeting after meeting with words like defense and community, stack assurances in red lettering on the table beside the shrimp crackers, promise to pick up the phone no matter how cudgel black the sky. You are not alone, I tell terrified factory workers, terrified parents, terror itself. You are this other condition speech has no right to enter without a warrant. The seafaring instinct heated like a sheet of metal, recast into a bowl where rain collects and small islands form out of the ants' drowned ambitions. Sometimes I think the gambler with slurred speech and shaky hands, half asleep in the gray folding chair at the back of the sanctuary, is God by his capacity to survive on rumor. Plainclothes, tinted vans. Authority is a matter of inhabiting two origins at once, of and over. I practice words I have to believe in. like rubber soles slapping concrete in that warehouse from half a lifetime ago. Men and women folded over sewing machines, puddles of nylon, split fingernails, their salt touches on unflagging needles under the watch of a fluorescent army. At home, the piano is waiting with its elegies. Its mother, the black moon under the eye, is stirring a potful of cow bones. Forget the other eye, which did not migrate with the rest of us. Still there, chalk dry in the courtyard, widening every time it sights a plane's white belly. Driving to York Prison in a Thunderbird with a belly full of sausage. It's hard not to give thanks for contradiction. I mean, this is not my Thunderbird. I didn't pay for this perspiring cup of sweet iced coffee. I have no sway over the grayness of October infecting the miles of visible world it contains. But I do appreciate speed, and somehow whipping past cows in their somber contemplation of the wet earth, their tails swatting at flies, which I guess could be the bovine manifestation of social anxiety, makes me feel like a body beyond history's gambit. We pass so many lumpy fields yet to be gleaned, meaning my eyes could have bled from the monotony, and pastel-colored homes spaced so far apart, I can't help thinking, no wonder folks in these parts voted for the orange psychopath obsessed with building a wall. But for the most part, keep our promise to act like this is one big adventure, a hurtling away from, not toward, the consequences of powerlessness. I'm in the passenger seat, and Henry, whose nephew will be facing the judge today, is punching the pedal like a goddamn Doctor Who, while taking strategic bites of his croissant so as not to get buttery flakes all over the red leather seat. In between, he regales me with his early years in America. He was a banker back home, scrubbing toilets in exchange for a sushi chef apprenticeship. He's a restaurateur now. I too offer tales of sacrifice and survival because, well, what else do you do while you're being hunted? The rain paints its fleeting destinies on the car windows, and I think of the common itineraries adventure takes. Escape from point A to point B, or a turn, i.e., anywhere you go ends up point A. There was one night, a long time ago, in a car like this one but stolen, in another country with the top down, when I beat my chest at the moon because I couldn't scream with all that wind, a whole country of wind rushing down my throat. I was a runaway then, a dropout, a fuck up, and still I get nostalgic about the colors of those days, lead and mulberry, how one chased the other, lightning in my periphery when I threw my fists at the boys and the law. They landed nowhere, and I'm not even mad, because escape is the story we tell, so we can live with the echoes of choices we made in greed, hunger, pain. Right now, Henry is saying that his daughters have no time for him, so I will treat you like you are one of them. This isn't the first time I've been a stand-in. It could be the closest thing we've invented to time travel. He's standing in too, for my dad, who would have never driven a Thunderbird. He was the kind of guy who hit the brakes every few seconds when there was no other car on the road. Plus he was a dentist. Or stopped at a gas station just to let me buy a pack of cigarettes. At some point, I stopped trying to find aesthetic value in the cows' sad, lolling heads. Ahead of us, the prison, with its crown of barbed wire, rises out of the dead grasses like solid blocks of rotten milk. I've never been here, but I almost cry with recognition. Of course, of course. There is where I've left my heart, in the box of metallic things you can't bring inside. Henry parks his beautiful machine, and we walk toward the blue doors, naked without our gadgets, not touching, but leaning toward each other. He's my dad's height, shorter than me, in the dogged rain. I will read one last poem, and this one is new, so it's not in the book, but it is going to be in the Massachusetts Review this spring. Poet, formerly known as activist, formerly known as child of God. Having lost my faith again in the given of an indifferent, discoverable order, wherein my injuries might be filed alphabetically, safe from tsunamis and termites, in color-coded cardboard boxes labeled international relations, American history, political economy, the high priestess, so that they might emerge aromatic, lipsticked, the day I am at last called to the podium of the ultraviolet narrative that is the stranger's literary citizenship in this country, which admires distillation as in, here is my venti cup of suffering, but also complexity as in, can you detect the floral notes in it? Having fled my home again, the gossiping bamboos, axe with its face buried in a stump in the yard, the front steps flecked with cigarette ash and occasionally cat piss, details that for a while kept the sweetness at bay. Sweetness I did not have the webbing to hold and therefore resisted with my life, leaving me brittle, my head a cauldron, tipping from side to side, saying, yes, 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 in iron urgency. I was strict with it, determined to channel my anger as admonished by the nonprofit feminists. The relief would have been to waste it, to let scald in every direction. Having paid for therapy, hypnotherapy, physiotherapy, Reiki, yoga, having scissored orchids, glaciers, Ganymede, and jellyfish out of the gloss of dead trees, having kneaded my sore liver in someone's Greenwich apartment while a camera rolled and sunset bled all over the romance of fire escapes, having framed my face in the toothpaste spackled mirror with post-its of sharpied affirmations, you are worthy of, insert antonyms of the void. Having planked daily and prayed to herbs, having notated the astrologer's account of my past life, you were either a canon or a pirate. Having finally cast every auntie, cousin, sister, comrade I have failed to avenge or forgive, I can't always tell the difference. In my own ungrateful immigrant version of that scene in the Monkfish episode of It's Okay to Not Be Okay, yes, the K-drama, when Jo Jae-soo, the overlooked friend who wishes he were the beloved brother, tells Moon Gang-tae, it's always those who are weak who act all tough. You weaklings should stick together, then you guys will become invincible. Though my trouble is, I'm not convinced of that final clause, having failed to gather enough evidence of anything beyond the gathering to justify the gathering. Just now, a strong wind blew, which you couldn't tell looking from behind closed doors. The sky remains an unflappable, I almost want to say elitist, blue, except for the trees that immediately surrendered their flags, scattering them to twist separately like confetti. You can read this poem as a celebration. Or children from many parts of the world. In cold, so clear and merciless, it is practically an intelligence. All the way here, I asked Google, how does what I believe become what I deserve? What now? if not the brief fellowship of the undefended, our weird, papery dances in waning light. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Our final reader this evening is Matthew Olzmann. His newest book, Constellation Route, just came out from Alice James Books in January. He's the author of two prior collections of poems, Mezzanines and Contradictions in the Design. The recipient of fellowships from the National Endowment for the Arts, McDowell, the Kresge Arts Foundation, and Kunneman, Olsmann's poems have appeared in Best American Poetry, the Pushcart Prize, Kenyon Review, New England Review, Southern Review, and elsewhere. He's a senior lecturer of creative writing at Dartmouth College and also teaches in the MFA program for writers at Warren Wilson College. Please welcome Matthew Olzmann.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to read a couple poems. I'll read a few poems from this book that's a Constellation Route. It's mostly a collection of letters, and I might read a couple things that aren't in here from a newer work in progress. This is a letter to a cockroach now dead and mixed into a bar of chocolate. Regulations allow for, on average, 60 insect fragments per 100 grams of chocolate. In America, you're pulverized. Your thorax, head, and legs that no longer twitch, invisible and milk smooth. Nothing harbors a secret like sweetness. Centuries ago, the sirens on the open sea understood this statute. Each sank their knowledge inside a voice of chimes and kisses, hiding the ocean's stone teeth in a mouth of mist and foam. Last week, waves beat against a dock in Brazil. The quick bodies of you and your buddies quivered across a cargo of cacao beans. You couldn't possibly comprehend the beans on their way to the grinder, just as those ancient sailors couldn't envision beyond the siren's music, the broken mast, the shattered hull. Today is Valentine's Day. I walked to the store to buy a box of chocolates for my wife. As I walk, I have no idea whose hands made the shoes that hug my feet or why the fruit at the supermarket glows like numbers on the stock exchange. There is sweetness in this world, but it has a price. You are the price. This is a letter to Bruce Wayne. A good place to hide a drop of water is a stream. A good place to hide a stream is beneath an ocean. A good place to hide a man is among thousands of other men. Watch how they rush through the city like water through a ravine. I've searched many famous cities for you. There are 3 listings for Bruce Wayne in Houston, 2 in Pittsburgh, 1 in Miami, and 1 in LA. In Tampa, Bruce Wayne is a retired chemistry teacher. In Flagstaff, he drives a taxi and hopes to procure a diamond for his soon-to-be fiancée. A good place to hide a star is a galaxy. A good place to hide a galaxy is a universe. Look at the night sky. Justice used to be a cowl and cape, the flicker of wings under an ateliated moon, and you, like a gargoyle, crouched atop some stone edifice. To conceal a universe, place it in a multiverse, that hypothetical clutch of alternate realities. The dilemma of the word alternate is how it implies a norm, a progenitor stream from which the alternate diverges. Which is the alternate? Which is right here, right now? There is no such thing as Gotham City, but here is Gotham City, and I've been so naive, believing the truth of the old mythologies, how they promised a recognizable villain, a clown with a ruby-slashed mouth, a lunatic's laugh. In the universe where I exist, supervillains look like anyone else. Give them an old flannel to wear and a square jawline to smile at the world, and suddenly they're hanging a noose in a middle school bathroom. They're shouting, "Get out of my country," from the window of a passing car. They're pulling a pistol in a crowded barroom or bus stop or the middle of the street. They could be anyone. They could be everywhere. A good place to hide a sociopath is a full-length mirror. A good place to hide that mirror is the heart of America. In the battle of good versus evil, I was so sure good would win. Now I just hope something good will survive. Get a job cutting hair or selling cars, make it home in time for dinner. I suspect There's a parallel dimension where you, vigilante, long for this as well. To live a normal life is victory enough. To remain anonymous and not be spat upon on the subway. In Boston, Bruce Wayne owns a pawn shop. In Milwaukee, he plays pinochle and feeds stray cats. In New Hampshire, he goes fly fishing on the Sugar River, reels in one brook trout after another. When he removes the hook from a mouth, he might place the fish into a cooler, or he might set it back into a stream, the alternate or the original, no longer certain in which he stands. This is 14 letters to a 52 hertz whale. 1. Dear 52 hertz, because you sing at a frequency no other whales can hear, scientists have nicknamed you the world's loneliest whale. I'm sure it's unbearable out there, swimming through eternity, calling out and calling out and calling out and never getting a reply, never hearing a kind word in response. Wherever you are, I hope you're being careful. 2. Dear 52 hertz, would it be weird if I came to the ocean to visit? I haven't figured out the logistics of this, but it'd be cool to hang for a while. The problem is I don't know how to find you. I could get to the beach, but then what? If I swam out to meet you, I'd get eaten by tiger sharks. If you swam to the shore, you'd get stuck and then you'd die. Once there's a video going around the internet of a beached whale and it was dead, and the villagers didn't know how to get rid of the carcass, so they tried to blow it up with a bunch of dynamite. It didn't work out too well for them. 3. Dear whale, it was stupid of me to mention that other whale getting blown up with all the dynamite and everything. Totally insensitive. Sorry, I have no grace. I've been told this before, that I have no grace. I apologize. I'm just trying to make conversation. I'm no good at this. Sorry. 4. Hey, whale, you ever dress up as other animals? If so, what kind? It's almost Halloween out there. I was just wondering. 5. Dear whale, Halloween was totally stupid. This one little kid came to the door dressed as a dolphin, but he had a net over him. And I said, what's with the net? And he said, every year, hundreds of thousands of dolphins and whales are killed by the tuna fishing industry because they don't know how to avoid the nets. And I thought he was insulting your intelligence. So I said, look, motherfucker, you don't know a goddamn thing about whales. Get off my porch. 6. Maybe I overreacted there. 7. Dear whale, you ever see people swimming nearby and think to yourself, I could really have some fun with this? 8. Like maybe you could surface right next to them and yell something like, Jonah, I've been looking for you, and then open your mouth really wide. 9. That's what I would do. 10. But I don't know, maybe whales have better things going on. 11. Do whales believe in providence? 12. Do you ever float on your back and scrutinize the stars and see unexpected figures among them, like maybe the shapes of other whales? Do you assign them names, imagine stories for those make-believe creatures as they drift through the dark? And do those stories lend structure to your days and nights? Do they comfort the nervous waters, constellate the disjointed heavens, and render the marvelous in a manner you can endure? Do you believe them? 13. How cold is the bottom of the ocean? How crushing is the pressure down there? 14. Do you ever worry that because your voice is impossible to hear, maybe no one will make the effort, that you can work really hard and try to be a good person and try to make a difference in your community, but then at the end of the day, the waves will just swallow you whole. They will take you under. You'll disappear from the world and you won't even leave a ripple on the surface. All right, so I'm going to read a couple newer things. These are sort of things that are very much still in progress, and what I've been working on lately is, a while ago someone had asked me for a poem for a wedding, and so I tried to write a bunch of wedding poems, and none of them were appropriate for the wedding for that person's wedding, or maybe any wedding. But then I just kept writing them because I found it to be the epithalamium to be a kind of intriguing form. So I'm going to read you a couple of those. Epithalamium with fingerprints on everything. On one side of the aisle, we have a former tennis champion who became an elite mathematician, fluent in 6 languages, who, when not building sustainable housing for refugees, serves humanity as a celebrity hand model, pastry chef, and our nation's leading nephrologist. On the other side of the aisle, we have Chet. Does this pairing make sense? Not really, but that's what makes it real. Everything sacred begins in mystery. Every mystery is incomprehensible to those outside its domain. We still don't know what Earth's core is made of, or what the moon, or where the moon came from. We don't know how life arrived on our planet, or why we can't find it anywhere else. We can't comprehend the nature of dark matter, but like the rope that rings the steeple bell, we feel its persistent pull. This is how the furnace of the heart fills with its fire. There's a strangeness or paradox, a pilgrimage into the impossible. Even our fingerprints are a mystery to us. We thought they helped us with grip, but that turned out to be completely wrong. We now only know that they're unique, unfathomable, and that when they touch the face of the beloved, they understand something that we do not. Epithalamium that refuses to ignore the possibility of a zombie apocalypse. Let's be honest. What each of us wants is to never get eaten by zombies, and the shotgun-shaped truth of the matter is we're less likely to be ravaged by the ravenous appetites of the dead if someone just loves us. We each need a partner posted on the roof, someone with a crossbow watching the high cornfields for signs of movement. There needs to be someone willing to brave the basement during a power outage, someone to descend the midnight staircase to repair the generator. We need a reserve supply of bandages, fragmentation grenades, and flamethrowers just in case the grid goes down. I'm afraid of dying alone, and I imagine I'm not alone in that fear. To those of us who've known sorrow know the world is populated by those who will respond to our outstretched arms by eating our outstretched arms. The God-honest miracle we celebrate today is these gentle and soon-to-be betrothed friends of ours have found in each other a companion willing to declare in public, I promise to never eat your extremities, kidneys, or brains. And furthermore, I vow to protect you from those who would. We call this commitment love, and there is no greater honor than to say, even when humanity withers around us, I will guard the humanity that stirs, restless and delicate, like a fawn in a field of knapweed in you. If the lights of the city go dark, if the highways fall silent, if every radio fills with static, if you are surrounded by a flesh-eating foulness and running low on ammo, I will love you like an unmarked helicopter flying in from the horizon. I will hover over you, and with my machine gunners struggling to hold the danger back, I will lower the ladder to meet you. I'll stop there. Thank you all for listening and for being here.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you all for your incredible poems and for being here with us virtually. I hope we can have you in the bookstore in the not too distant future to celebrate your work. You can, of course, buy Constellation Route and Fire is Not a Country, the latest collections from Matthew and Cynthia. At the link in the chat, there's also a link right below me in the description. And if you're in town, you can stop by in the store and find them on our shelves in our poetry selection, which is section, which is right here. Not really behind me, but behind me in spirit. Thank you all again for reading with us this evening. And to our viewers, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you at our next event. Have a great night, everybody. Take care. Go Blue, beat State.
Oh.